if you are over 60 years old, or if you love someone who is, what I am about to tell you in the next 40 minutes could add 10, 15, even 20 extra years of walking, moving, and living independently to your life. And I don't say that lightly. I say it because I have spent decades studying what actually keeps the human body alive, strong, and capable, not in theory, not in some outdated textbook, but in real people, in real hospitals, in real longevity studies from the parts of the world where people routinely live past 100 with their minds sharp and their legs strong. And what I discovered is something so simple, so overlooked, that almost nobody talks about it. Everybody wants to tell you about walking. Everybody wants to tell you about stretching. Those things matter, don't get me wrong. But there is one specific exercise, one movement pattern that your body was designed to do every single day, and when you stop doing it, which is exactly what happens to most people after 60, your body begins a slow, silent countdown. Muscle wastes away, bones become brittle, balance disappears, and one day, you fall. And that fall is not just a fall. For someone over 65, a serious fall is one of the leading reasons people lose their independence forever. I have seen it happen. I have seen strong, proud, capable people walk into a hospital after a small stumble and never fully walk the same way again. And the tragic part is, it was almost entirely preventable. So today, I am going to walk you through exactly what this exercise is, why your body needs it more than almost anything else at this stage of life, the science behind why it works at a cellular level, and exactly how to do it safely, step by step, starting today, even if you have never exercised a day in your life, even if you have bad knees, even if you are afraid of falling. By the end of this, you will understand your own body better than most doctors explain it to their patients in 20 years of visits. So stay with me, because what I'm about to share could genuinely change how many years you get to live on your own 2 feet. Let's start with a question. Have you ever noticed how, when people get older, they don't die of old age exactly, they die of not being able to get up? Think about that for a second. It's rarely old age itself that takes someone's independence. It's the fall, it's the broken hip, it's the moment someone can't rise from a chair without help, can't climb a single flight of stairs, can't carry their own groceries in from the car. That moment is when everything changes. That is when families start having the hard conversations about assisted living. That is when a person's whole identity, their whole sense of self, starts to shrink. And here is the truth nobody wants to say out loud. This decline is not inevitable. It is not simply aging. Much of it comes from one very specific, very preventable cause: the loss of muscle strength and power, particularly in the legs and the core, combined with a decline in something called neuromuscular coordination, which is really just a fancy way of saying your brain's ability to talk to your muscles quickly enough to catch yourself before you fall. Here is what most people don't realize. Starting around the age of 30, the average person begins losing muscle mass at a rate of roughly 3 to 8% per decade. That might not sound like much, but here's the part that should genuinely alarm you. That rate of loss more than doubles after the age of 60. It's called sarcopenia, and it is one of the most under-discussed epidemics in modern aging. It's not just about looking weaker or feeling more tired. Sarcopenia is directly linked to falls, fractures, loss of independence, metabolic disease, and yes, even earlier death. And the cruelest part of sarcopenia is that it doesn't just take your strength, it takes your power. There's a difference between strength and power that almost nobody explains properly. Strength is your ability to produce force. Power is your ability to produce that force quickly. And it turns out, power is what actually saves your life when you trip on a curb or misstep on a stair. You don't need to slowly push a heavy weight to catch yourself from falling. You need to react in a fraction of a second, and power, fast twitch muscle power, is what allows your leg to shoot out and catch your body before gravity wins. And here is the devastating fact. Power declines even faster than raw strength as we age. By the time someone reaches their 70s, they can lose up to 40% of their muscle power compared to their 30s. even if their overall strength has only dropped by half that amount. That mismatch, losing your quick reaction power faster than your slow strength, is exactly why falls become so much more common and so much more dangerous with age. Your body is slower to catch itself, even if the muscle is technically still there. So now you understand the problem. Let me tell you about the solution, and I promise you it is not what the fitness industry has been selling you. It is not going to the gym and doing an hour of cardio on a treadmill. It is not gentle stretching alone, though stretching has its place. It is not walking, even though walking is wonderful and I want you to keep doing it. The single most important exercise for anyone over 60, the one movement that trains your legs, your core, your balance, your bone density, and your fall-catching reflexes all at the same time, is the humble sit-to-stand, what some people call the chair squat, but done with intention, done with proper form, and done daily as a non-negotiable part of your routine, just like brushing your teeth. I know what you might be thinking. That sounds too simple. That can't possibly be the answer to something as serious as preserving your independence into your 80s and 90s. But let me explain exactly why this movement is so extraordinarily powerful. Because once you understand the mechanism, you will never look at standing up from a chair the same way again. Think about your entire day. How many times do you get up from a seated position? You get up from bed. You get up from the toilet. You get up from your dining chair. You get up from your favorite reading chair. You get up from the car. On an average day, most people perform this movement between 30 and 60 times without even thinking about it. It is, without exaggeration, the single most repeated functional movement pattern in a human being's entire day, right alongside walking. And yet almost nobody trains it deliberately. We train our biceps. We train our chest. We go for walks. But the movement we perform more than almost anything else, rising from a seated position under our own power, is the one thing we let atrophy completely. And when it goes silently, until one day you find yourself pushing off the arms of the chair, then pushing off with both hands, then needing someone to help pull you up. Each stage of that decline feels small in the moment, but add them up over 10 years and you have gone from independent to dependent, one lost repetition at a time. Here's what makes the sit-to-stand so uniquely powerful from a physiological standpoint. When you lower yourself into a chair and rise back up, you are recruiting nearly every major muscle group required for functional independence in a single motion. Your quadriceps, the muscles on the front of your thighs, generate the primary force to extend your knees. Your glutes, the largest and most powerful muscle group in your entire body, drive hip extension, which is the single strongest predictor of fall risk in older adults. Stronger glutes literally mean fewer falls. Your hamstrings stabilize the knee joint throughout the motion. Your core, your deep abdominal and lower back muscles fire continuously to keep your torso upright and balanced as your center of gravity shifts. And your ankles and feet make dozens of tiny micro adjustments the entire time, training the exact same proprioceptive, balance-related feedback loops that determine whether you catch yourself when you trip or whether you fall. There is no machine at any gym, no single exercise that trains this many critical systems simultaneously in a pattern that so precisely mirrors real, everyday life. That is why it is not just an exercise, it is a rehearsal for living independently. Now let's talk about bone. This is something that deserves far more attention than it gets, especially for women after menopause, but honestly for men too, because male osteoporosis is dramatically underdiagnosed and underdiscussed. Bone is living tissue. It responds to mechanical stress the exact same way muscle does. Use it and it strengthens. Stop loading it and it weakens, sometimes shockingly fast. The sit-to-stand movement places direct, weight-bearing compressive load through your hips, your femurs, and your spine, precisely the three locations where osteoporotic fractures are most catastrophic and most life-altering. A hip fracture in someone over 75 carries a genuinely sobering statistic. Research consistently shows that a significant percentage of people who fracture a hip in their 70s or 80s do not survive the following year, not because of the fracture itself, but because of the cascade of complications that follow: pneumonia from lying still, blood clots, loss of muscle mass during recovery, depression, and the loss of will to rebuild. When you perform a sit-to-stand daily, especially with any added resistance over time, you are literally telling your skeleton, through the language of mechanical stress, you are still needed, stay strong, stay dense. Bone listens to that message. It remodels itself in response to load. This is not a metaphor. This is measurable, published, replicated science in the field of bone physiology. Let's also talk about something most people never connect to leg strength: your metabolism and your brain. Your legs contain the largest muscles in your entire body. When those muscles contract under load, they release signaling molecules called myokines directly into your bloodstream. These myokines travel throughout your body and have been shown to improve insulin sensitivity, reduce systemic inflammation, and, this is the part that fascinates me most, cross into your brain and support the growth of new neural connections. There is a growing body of research suggesting that maintaining lower body strength in older age is directly correlated with better cognitive function, sharper memory, and a reduced risk of cognitive decline. Your quadriceps, believe it or not, may be talking to your hippocampus. The strength in your thighs may be protecting the sharpness of your mind. That is how deeply interconnected your body actually is. Nothing exists in isolation. When you strengthen your legs, you are not just protecting yourself from falls. You are protecting your blood sugar, your heart, your inflammation levels, and quite possibly your memory. Now, I want to address something directly because I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now. I have bad knees. I have arthritis. I had a hip replacement. I'm afraid I'll hurt myself. I hear you, and I want you to know this exercise, done correctly, is not only safe for the vast majority of people with those conditions, it is often specifically recommended by physical therapists precisely because it is so controllable, so scalable, and so protective of the joints when done with proper form. Unlike running, which pounds your joints with repeated impact, or unlike a full deep squat with a barbell, which can be genuinely risky without supervision, the chair-assisted sit-to-stand allows you to control your depth, control your speed, and use the chair itself as a safety net at every single stage. You are never more than a few inches from a stable, supported seated position. That built-in safety is exactly why this movement is used in physical therapy clinics, in cardiac rehabilitation programs, and in fall prevention research trials around the world. It is not just safe, it is one of the most clinically validated exercises for older adults in existence. In fact, the number of times a person can rise from a standard chair without using their hands in 30 seconds is used by researchers and physicians as an actual diagnostic tool. It's called the 30-second chair stand test, and it is one of the most predictive, evidence-based measures of frailty risk, fall risk, and even mortality risk in the aging research literature. Let that sink in for a moment. Something as simple as how many times you can stand up from a chair in half a minute is one of the strongest predictors doctors have for how long you are likely to live independently. That tells you everything about how important this movement really is. So now, let's talk about exactly how to do this, step by step, safely, starting from wherever you are today, whether you're someone who hasn't exercised in years or someone who's reasonably active but has never trained this specific pattern with intention. First, find a sturdy, stable chair. Not a soft couch, not a wheeled office chair, a solid dining chair or a firm armchair with the seat at roughly knee height is ideal. Place it against a wall if you're at all unsure about stability, so it cannot slide backward. Sit toward the front edge of the chair, feet flat on the floor, positioned roughly under your knees, hip width apart. Cross your arms over your chest, or if you need support in the beginning, that is completely fine. Place your hands lightly on the arms of the chair or on your thighs, not to pull yourself up, but simply as a light touch point for balance. Now, lean your torso slightly forward from your hips, keeping your back straight, not rounded. This forward lean is critical. It shifts your center of gravity over your feet, which is what allows your leg muscles, rather than momentum or your arms, to do the actual work. Press firmly through your heels and the middle of your feet, and rise to a full standing position, driving through your thighs and squeezing your glutes at the top. Stand fully upright, pause for 1 full second at the top to establish balance, and then, with control, not by collapsing, lower yourself back down, hinging at the hips and bending your knees, and lightly touch the chair with your body before rising again. That's 1 repetition. In the beginning, I want you to aim for a modest, honest starting point. If you can only do 3, do 3. If you can only do 1 and need to use your hands the first few times, that is a completely valid starting point, and it will improve faster than you expect. The goal in week 1 is simply to perform this movement in some form once a day. As it becomes easier, and it will, often within just 1 to 2 weeks, you begin progressing. First, you remove the assistance of your hands. Then, you increase your repetitions, working toward a goal of 10 to 15 controlled repetitions. Then, you slow the movement down, taking a full 3 to 4 seconds on the way down, which dramatically increases the strength benefit through what's called eccentric loading. And eventually, for those who want to keep progressing, you can hold a light weight, a filled water bottle, a small dumbbell, even a bag of rice against your chest to add resistance, or you can lower the seat height by using a lower, sturdier surface, which increases the range of motion and the difficulty. I want you to do this once, ideally twice, every single day. Not 3 times a week, not when I remember. Every day. The same way you would never skip brushing your teeth for 3 days and expect your dental health to be fine. Consistency is what rebuilds neuromuscular pathways, and those pathways, the connection between your brain and your muscles, are honestly just as important as the muscle strength itself, because it's that fast neural connection that allows you to catch yourself in that critical half second when you stumble. Let me also give you a few safety notes, because doing this correctly matters more than doing it aggressively. If you feel sharp pain in your knees, as opposed to the normal sensation of muscular effort, stop and consult a physical therapist about your specific form or any underlying joint issue. Never rush the movement, especially on the way down. A slow, controlled descent is actually more valuable than a fast one for building real strength. Always breathe throughout the movement, exhaling as you rise, rather than holding your breath, which can spike blood pressure unnecessarily. And if you have any cardiovascular condition, recent surgery, or significant balance disorder, it is always wise to mention this specific exercise to your physician first, simply so they can confirm it fits appropriately into your particular health picture. This is general education, not a replacement for guidance tailored to your individual medical history. Now, I want to tell you something that I find genuinely moving, something that comes from looking at the populations around the world where people live the longest, healthiest lives, places researchers often call blue zones. In these communities, in parts of Okinawa, in Sardinia, in the mountain villages where people casually live active, capable lives into their 90s and beyond, you will almost never see a Western-style toilet, a Western-style dining chair, or a soft recliner. People sit on the floor. They sit on low stools. They garden at ground level. And as a direct result, without ever setting foot in a gym or calling it exercise, they perform the equivalent of dozens of deep, full sit-to-stand movements every single day of their lives, from childhood into their 10th decade. It is woven so completely into their daily existence that it never disappears. The way it disappears for so many of us the moment we retire from physically demanding work and settle into a life of soft chairs, car seats, and elevators. This is not a coincidence. This is, I believe, one of the quiet, unglamorous secrets behind why these populations maintain their strength, their balance, and their independence so far into old age, while so much of the rest of the world sees a steep, painful decline. You do not need to move to a remote village to capture this benefit. You simply need to reintroduce this one ancient fundamental human movement back into your daily life, deliberately, consistently, starting today. I also want to speak for a moment to the caregivers, the sons and daughters, the spouses watching this, because you're worried about someone you love. If you have a parent, an aunt, an older neighbor who has started saying things like, "I just don't get up as easily as I used to," please do not dismiss that sentence as a normal, harmless part of getting older. That sentence is often the earliest, quietest warning sign of the exact decline we've been discussing today. It is, in many cases, the single most actionable, most reversible warning sign in the entire aging process. Sit with them, show them this exact movement, offer to do it together, once a day, even just 3 or 4 repetitions to start. You may be looking at one of the simplest, most powerful gifts you could ever give someone you love. More years of standing on their own, walking into their own kitchen, using their own bathroom, living in their own home, on their own terms. Because that, in the end, is truly what this is about. It was never really about exercise for its own sake. It has always been about dignity, about independence, about the ability to get up off the floor after playing with a grandchild, to rise from your favorite chair without a second thought, to walk into your own home under your own power for as many years as life will allow. That kind of independence is not something that simply happens to you as a gift of good luck or good genetics. In a very real, very measurable way, it is something you build, one honest, humble repetition at a time, starting from a simple chair, starting today. So here is what I want you to do the moment this video ends. Find a sturdy chair, sit down at the front edge of it, and stand up, just once. That's it. That one repetition is the beginning of a habit that, if you commit to it daily, could genuinely be the difference between spending your 80s and 90s independent and mobile, or spending them relying on someone else to help you simply stand. Your body was built to move this way for an entire lifetime. It is never too late to remind it how. If this helped you see your own body, your own future, a little differently today, do one thing for me. Share this with someone in your life who needs to hear it. A parent, a grandparent, a friend who's been saying they don't move like they used to. And if you want more of this kind of practical, science-grounded guidance for living a longer, stronger, more independent life, stay close, because there is so much more I want to share with you. Take care of yourself, get up out of that chair, and I will see you very soon. If you are over 60 years